Well, let's talk consumer protection this morning. Well, there's a competition angle and more. And we're joined on the program by the Director of Corporate Affairs at the FCCPC, Mr. Ondaje Ejagu, joins us live from our Abuja studio. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Well, the FCCPC, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, has had its hands full, whether with an estate in Abuja or with Airtime, you know, Nigerians and the experiences they have with their service providers. But, you know, the aviation sector has also been seeing a lot of, well, infringement, especially for intending flyers, airline, you know, passengers, I should say, and so much. And, you know, there's a context of the Jet A1 fuel that the airlines blame, but there's also the responsibility that airlines have to their passengers. I was at the Abuja airport yesterday, and after passengers rather, had waited from about 12, their flight was delayed, and then about 6 p.m. or thereabouts, they got the announcement that they were not flying anymore yesterday, and they were sent back home. So people who didn't have a place to go, who had planned that, well, they were going to go from Abuja to Benin, were stranded at the airport. And they were asking, doesn't the airline have a responsibility to me as a passenger? If you fail on your own part, aren't you meant to provide some sort of succor? So I want us to start there because it's a thorny issue, and I imagine there are people who are rushing to the airport this morning who are thinking, I hope I don't fall victim. What does the law say regarding consumer protection, at least for these passengers?
Okay, thank you. And you know what you call infringements, we would, at the start of it, look at those as incidents, because except some of these matters are investigated and determinations are made, would not call them infringements or infractions. But like what you described, falls within the protection of consumer rights. You know, before now, consumer rights were not codified in Nigeria, but by the inception of the FCCPA 2018, that's the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018, the rights became codified and consumers have entitlements under the law. The very first part of these rights would even be a right to information. And that is one thing that we'll find to be lacking in the Nigerian situation a lot. Because if consumers are kept in the dark, they are not even informed about occurrences or possible issues that may affect their welfare. It becomes something we are interested in. And it's something that you could say, readily say is against the law, actually. So we have a plethora of rights. So apart from things being maybe even just a violation of the law, there are also a violation of the rights of the consumer. We know that the aviation sector you mentioned is actually regulated by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. And they have a Part 19 of their act that actually provides for what consumers are entitled to when there are issues of delay, issues of flight cancellations, and even refunds, and a host of others, loss of luggage. But most of the time we discover that airlines are actually not abiding by this. But a lot of times too would have to depend on consumer complaints to know that these are the issues, because we could sit where we are and hazard a guess as to the fact that maybe consumers haven't been treated fairly, but we would not know the exact treatment that is meted apart from maybe those ones that are quite obvious, like flight delays. But if there are flight delays, and just like I mentioned, the Part 19, did consumers get catered to in the manner that they should? Did the airline provide some of those succor that you referenced in your intro? So except we make our findings and then determinations, we'll not be able to clearly say what it is, but those things are guided by law. Consumer rights are protected by law, and
pardon me, shouldn't the airlines
of same.
Right, shouldn't the airline in this case provide accommodation, because it's now been moved from one day to the other, and very early the next day, I think about 7 a.m. So shouldn't the airline provide accommodation, transportation, feeding for these passengers? I understand the context, but isn't that what the law says? Or the regulations in this case?
Yes, for certain, there is like I said, there are guiding principles, and not just guiding principles, there are legal provisions guiding this. I'm not able to lay my hands on all of that at the moment, but I can tell you upfront and quite clearly that if for certain hours of delay, because it's categorized, let me just explain. If for a number of hours your flight is delayed, you're supposed to be given refreshment. And then after some more hours of delay, you're even supposed to be given airtime, from what we understand from the books and the law. You're supposed to be provided airtime because you could be seen to at least be in distress. So you would be required to be assisted to that extent. And when it gets to where you cancel the flight abruptly and you had kept consumers all through that time, it is required, even outside of the law, even if you were in other climes, you could tell that in such a situation, just like you mentioned, transport would be provided because the airport is quite far from the town, from the city. And then apart from that, accommodation could be provided at certain instances. So given the exact situation, we could just maybe put this side by side with the exact situation as would have occurred to be able to determine what should have been given and what has been denied.
Let me find out from you, staying with the airport and the airline incident, is there do we have the presence of the FCCPC at these areas? Perhaps the gateway of our country are airports, seaports, and these places. Just for the purpose of information, do we have FCCPC present at our airports to check these kind of occurrences?
No, we rather have the NCAA present at every airport. They have a stand at every airport. And like you know, that's their primary regulator. And apart from that, they also have consumer protection functions. Ours, yes, we have, because ours is a horizontal mandate that we have. It's an economy-wide mandate to protect consumers and also to ensure that there's competition in every sector of the economy. So the NCA are there, but for us, we are just an earshot away because we are on phone. We are also online. Consumers could reach us when situations occur. And we try as much as possible to provide multiple channels for consumers to reach us in those kind of situations.
I hope that those numbers are working, because Nigerians have a lot of complaints. In fact, I've just done a list of things I want to find out from you. So let's move from airline to airtime. That has been a big problem. Literally, I remember there was a time I used to do like maybe 100,000 naira for, is it 1 terabyte? I've forgotten the network now. It took you for a while, but these days, that takes you for a very short period, very, very short period. And if I'm sure you're using data. Recently, you load your phone, and before you know, it's all over. I think I saw Julius Malema, the leader of the EFF in South Africa, saying, in fact, they are advocating against a particular network, that people's data should never expire. Let it end when it ends. So FCCPC, is there a conversation with mobile operators as far as, you know, this airline, airtime, I should say, and data is concerned? Because it democratized opportunity. It allowed a lot of us to do a lot of things. But now the tariff or the price hike, or whatever name is called, is making it quite difficult for the average person to be able to use the things they used to enjoy before. Is there a complaint you've gotten? Are there actions being taken?
Yeah, but let me also address the fact that our phone lines work and our online platforms also work, because you had spoken about that. As for complaints in the telecom sector, like every other sector, we have a plethora of complaints. Yes, we have complaints about data issues, airtime issues, and a host of others, even poor customer service. We have complaints across board. But talking about maybe the fact that the airtime or possibly maybe data dissipate quickly, we also engage them a lot on those kind of issues, but they are treated on their merits. Individual cases are treated on their merits, because a number of things could happen that could result in the depletion of data in that kind of manner. Sometimes some persons leave certain functionalities that may not even be what they use essentially. You know, these days we have smartphones all around, and those smartphones are very powerful gadgets. Even if you're sleeping, they are working. So we advise that consumers pay attention to details, the functions that they don't desire to have on their phones. They could either put them off or mute them. And even when you need them and you don't need them at particular times, you could still mute them so that they don't continue to gulp your data. But aside that, yes, we have also had confirmed cases at different times where consumers complained to say, look, in fact, the way Nigerian consumers describe it sometimes is that their data disappeared. When those kind of complaints come to us, we investigate and we make determinations. If it's true that data actually was depleted without the consumer making use of them,
Can you hear me, sir?
there are measures we'll take. Yes, sure, I can.
Yeah, I was trying to butt in to just add a little. So now you're doing their data management advisory, but we've always been using these phones. We saw when the price hike happened. I'm sure you're also affected one way or the other. So there's nothing technically new, because smartphones have been here for as long as we know, and data has changed eventually. I know there are different apps that are now coming in and all of that. But is that something my question actually is the FCCPC actively looking into it? Because the complaints are a lot, except you're not hearing or people are not calling.
I just said that we have a number of, an enormous number of complaints cutting across different areas of the telecom operations, and data depletion is one of it. I was also going to say that a number of times and I had mentioned that where there are confirmed cases of undue depletion of data, we intervene. I don't know if you heard me. We actually intervene, and we could also order for certain things to happen. But like I also was saying, that these are case dependent. We don't just sit down and say, okay, look, this is happening. When you make your case available to us, we'll look at it, we'll investigate, and we'll make determinations. When those determinations are made, actions that are proportional to whatever infractions that would have been established would be taken. And not just that, certain times compensations could be ordered depending on the merit of your case, and these are treated on their merits, like I said.
So let's look at processes now. For some Nigerians who may not know how to initiate a complaint and get redress through the good office of the FCCPC, what is the process like, and is it marked by delay, hence the resort to public online complaint?
No, we have a number of platforms for consumers who desire to complain to us. I just spoke about the fact that we had phone lines. We actually have some hotlines that consumers could reach us on. Apart from that, you could just walk into any of our offices where we have offices. You could also send a surface mail to us, and the online platform is such that we know that the world is virtually a virtual village today, and you could be anywhere and be able to reach us. And that is why we emphasize online a lot, because we know that we also have thousands of complaints made to us through that channel. So we have a number of, and aside consumer complaints, we also have surveillance officers who on a daily, their duty is to be able to go out and look at some of these areas and see where there are potential consumer harms. And when those things are established, we act even without necessarily having consumers complain to us. So, but it's just that the market is big, is huge, and but we continue to do a whole lot from one sector to the other. And you could see that even in the month of April, this month of April, we had a plethora of maybe successes, I would say. We had enforcement operations at 2 different locations in Abuja. We have also had 2 court cases determined, and which we consider to be landmark in the aviation as well as the banking sectors.
Yes, and my reference to online is deliberate, because in recent times, Nigerians have resorted to, posting their complaint about a product or service online. We can recall the tomato paste edition. We can recall that of the bread edition, which followed with an initiation of a case by the baker concerned. So is there anything, and I'd like you to speak to whatever efforts the FCCPC is doing as far as the bread case is concerned, but is there anything in the act establishing the FCCPC that prohibits the consumer from making a public complaint on social media about a product or service?
Oh, okay, I can get where you headed now. Yes, on the bread issue, even on the issue before the bread issue, you would understand and you would agree that we did a lot in terms of the consumer that was being publicly harassed and also taken to court, to the police, and a host of other hostile kind of treatment meted out. For us as an organization, we work within the confines of the law. And like I said, one of the things about the consumer today is that the law provides for the consumer to be provided information. And the law also provides for the consumer to be heard. Because if a consumer suffers anything, definitely the consumer has a right to make certain representations and be heard. So we would look at those issues within the confines of our law as the right to information and the right to be heard. And that's even a right to redress by implication, because the right to be heard has, as part of it, a right to redress. Right. So, but some of these things also, there are certain issues that fall outside of our law, maybe certain civil actions that could be taken either by a corporate body or even an individual. People could exercise their rights to that extent. But on the particular case of the bread issue, let me tell you that those kind of things raise certain red flags with us. And as soon as we got wind of it, our surveillance and investigation department and even our legal services were up to ensure that certain things happened. And what were some of those things? One, we facilitated even within NAFDAC to actually take on board the sample that was referenced by that particular consumer for further analysis. We also ensured that when we had that person was actually the consumer in question was also being harassed and taken to the police, we ensured that that consumer got released, and then we also ensured that that consumer also had an interface with NAFDAC. So we do all of those behind the scene. They are not things that will necessarily come to begin to say out there.
Right.
So we provided assistance from one point to the other, and we're keeping tabs on that matter. Our operatives are very much on it.
Mr. Jago,
we are interested in it. We even want determinations to be made.
Right. So just to just reinforce the fact that you're able to review products. You can review products. In fact, it's a given in other climes. And I just want to end by asking the FCCPC to also pay attention to rent. It's great to hear the work that you're doing, but for rent and the way rent is going for a lot of people, they have called on the FCCPC to look into it. So is that a commitment you're giving Nigerians, that you look into rent rates, how they are increasing at such astronomical rates?
Okay, thank you.
No, it's just a commitment. I just want to get your commitment because of time.
Yes, for that, but I will make the commitment, and the commitment has always been there. But let me say that we are actually not a price control agency, and I think that should be known. What we do is when a certain pricing becomes exploitative, we intervene. The law mandates us in that respect to intervene. But we don't in any way or shape try to either ensure that prices remain at any level. For us, we recognize the fact that we are in a free market economy, and then consumers, yes, could face the harm of exploitative and maybe pricing that would require attention, and the law permits us to act in that kind of respect. So if we look at matters individually, we're able to establish whether there are exploitative pricing at any point in time, and when that happens, we intervene. So just to say that we don't control price. And talking about a review again, please let me just quickly conclude that review is a part of what a consumer is entitled to, is a legitimate feedback to producers and to sellers and dealers, as the case may be. Thank you.
But please keep your eyes on the rent, all the extra fees and charges, and just how it's beyond the reach of the average Nigerian. We have to thank you, Director of Corporate Affairs.
Consumers should make individual complaints to us so that we take those complaints on their merit, whether it borders on rent, transportation costs, or whatever. If
That's great to hear.
If it becomes exploitative, definitely we have a role there.
Mr. Ondaje Jagu, thank you for your time, and we're here to support the work that you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.